The search is on to identify an unknown author Thursday, a day after the New York Times published an anonymous opinion piece blasting the president. The Times op-ed alleges many in the Trump administration are, quote, working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda. It goes on to say the president's erratic behavior would be more concerning if it weren't for unsung heroes in and around the White House. The president fired back Wednesday, saying the Times must, for national security purposes, turn the author over to the government. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang has the latest.
President Trump ignored questions today about the anonymously written op-ed the New York Times said was the work of a senior Trump administration official. The writer claimed to be part of the resistance against the president, among those working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations.
It's not mine.
Top administration officials, including nearly every member of the president's cabinet, quickly issued statements of denial.
I come from a place where if you're not in a position to execute the commander's intent, you have a singular option, and it's to leave.
I think it's a disgrace. The anonymous editorial published in the New York Times represents a new low in American journalism.
First Lady Melania Trump, usually mum on political matters, said in a statement to the writer of the op-ed, "You are not protecting this country. You are sabotaging it with your cowardly actions." The New York Times defended its decision to publish the piece. The editor of the op-ed section, James Dow, said on a podcast his team was 100% confident of the author's identity after a lengthy vetting process.
I would guess that this person has reached a breaking point and they felt that they just needed to say what was on their mind and what was on the mind of other people in the administration in their view.
House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi's take, don't shoot the messenger.
It's a sad statement, and it is a manifestation of corruption, cronyism, just having your friends around you, incompetence of some of the people who are advising him.
Weijia Jiang is traveling with the president and joins me now from Billings, Montana. Weijia, my sense is that the White House did not have any idea this anonymous op-ed was coming. Would you agree?
Yeah, Tanya, I think you're absolutely right, because we watched President Trump's reaction unfold almost in real time. You know, we saw him. It was during an event with sheriffs from across the country. He had a messy pile of papers that he was sort of referring to. But the op-ed only came out a short time before that event. So even though they had enough time to flag him about this, it seemed that he had almost just heard about it. And so I would say that his reaction was quite raw. And that's why it was. Because certainly if, you know, they knew about this, they knew this was coming, I think he would have been a lot more prepared than he was, even though he certainly addressed it and he tried to change the narrative right away by talking about all his accomplishments in that room. It was clear that there was a sense that he was taken aback and that he was almost desperate to make clear, to clarify that this was something that he thought was very gutless, and of course all the other things he said to criticize the piece as well as the New York Times for publishing it.
Yes, of course. As you mentioned, he directly attacked what he calls the fake news at that White House event Wednesday. A New York Times spokesperson then told CBS News they are, quote, incredibly proud to have published the piece. Does the White House feel that targeting the media is the most effective strategy here? And what else are they doing to refute the allegations in the piece?
Well, certainly from what we've seen, that is their strategy. In fact, just today, in a brand new statement, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders issued on Twitter a copy of this statement that actually had the phone number of the New York Times op-ed section. And she asked people, hey, if you want to know who this person is, call the New York Times, because they're the ones who are responsible for this piece that, of course, they're slamming as irresponsible, gutless, and even the president mentioning a threat to national security. By the way, we have asked for clarification about how this could be a threat to security and have not received any answers. But to your question, Tanya, yes, this is not a new strategy, but it is the strategy, it appears, to really go at anonymous sources and sort of the fundamentals of journalism and how journalists do their jobs to protect sources in order to get information. And remember the timing of this, on the heels of the release of those excerpts that were so damning from Bob Woodward's book, Fear. And that was also the strategy there, to say, you know, these are all made up. These are stories that are made up because the sources are not identified and therefore can't be trusted. And so that's how they are questioning the storyline in this op-ed as well.
Right. Well, certainly the double whammy there, the Bob Woodward book, the op-ed. Whether or not all of this surprised the president, one person who says he was not surprised is Senator Bob Corker. He told reporters that on Wednesday. Let's listen.
I mean, any of us who've worked with the White House understand that there are people who work around the president who do work to keep things moving in a direction that is good for our country. Keeping quick decisions from being made that are made out of anger or just out of resentment or whatever I'm glad that there are people there that are thwarting that kind of thing.
Weijia, he's saying, yeah, this is going on, and I'm glad it's going on. I mean, is the White House concerned about other Republicans like Corker speaking out in that manner?
You know, I think context really matters in the case of Bob Corker. First of all, he's retiring. He's out the door. And he and the president have, for a long time now, been very publicly critical of each other. In fact, Senator Corker once described the White House as adult daycare. And so the fact that he is saying, you know, what's happening according to this op-ed is no surprise to him, because he has sort of identified what he considers to be chaos within the West Wing anyway. And so that's where that's coming from. And yeah, he says it's a good thing, because otherwise, who knows what may happen when it comes to decisions and action that the president could take. But, you know, the White House is going to point that out and say that, you know, they have tension between each other. And really, he's one of the very few Republicans who are taking such a harsh stance against President Trump. Most of them, especially leadership, are not willing to do that because they still have an agenda to accomplish. They still have races to win in the midterms, and they certainly don't want to give credit to this op-ed when it paints such a detrimental, devastating picture of what's happening in the administration that could end up hurting those races and Republicans in just a couple months.
Right, and I agree with you. You know, Corker has one foot out the door, so that is not so surprising. But still, any Republican, you know, on Capitol Hill right now who gives any credence to what was in that op-ed could be dangerous going into midterms. So, Weijia, how likely is it that we will learn who this anonymous official is?
Well, the thing to remember is the way that this person has been identified as senior administration official. And that sounds like, oh, that must be the president's inner circle, but that's not true. That title belongs to hundreds of people in the administration that work at a senior level with teams. Remember, thousands and thousands of people are part of this big, massive team for President Trump. And so to be senior, you know, does not just mean to be, you know, at the president's side as a White House counselor or as a member of the cabinet. So it really could be anyone. However, you know, based on what has been written and the way it's been written, there's a lot of speculation that this is somebody who is close to the president, who has watched sort of from the very beginning this chaos build and unfold even more. And so you have the top players coming out, as we saw all day long, as you mentioned, one after another, denying that they were the writer. But certainly in history, we've seen politicians claim something, and then later we find out that they were lying. And, you know, that is just something to keep in mind, because, you know, this person cites the main reason that they don't want to come out as being, you know, because they want to continue doing their work to thwart the president. So, I cannot imagine when we could find this out, but any guesses at this point, and by the way, we've heard a lot
yes.
in the White House and beyond, is all just speculation at this point. We should point that out.
And there are many, many people poring over every single word, looking for any clues they can possibly find out of that op-ed. All right, Weijia Jiang, thank you so much. We will be speaking to you in a little bit. Thank you so much.